All right, and we are back. So I like that it lets you know if you get booted off. Whenever you're doing this high quality of streaming, takes a lot of bandwidth to do so. So, Coach Muhammad, you were. Let's see here. That's us on Instagram. Hang on. How do I turn this off? Hold up. Hold up. I wonder if we're still there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about Coach Fass's promotion and the chance to be able to check in with the team. You want to continue talking about that?
Yeah. So like I was saying, it's very common nowadays to have a blue belt who's been training for maybe since they were 5, 6 years old. And, people look at the belt system. You have blue, purple, brown, black, right? So
Mm-hmm.
blue, that's the first belt level. So it's very common nowadays to have somebody move up from training since they were a kid. Now there's like 15, 16, 17, and they're a blue belt, which essentially is the first belt after white, to be able to submit and beat black belts who've been training for, however many years. So it's very, very common. So that gives you a picture of like essentially a lot of the people at Worlds, how good they are at the blue belt level. And it also, shows you that the belt system in Jiu-Jitsu doesn't necessarily say if you're a blue belt, you're so good, purple, brown, black. So at Worlds, John Danaher, one of John Danaher's students, I believe he's purple or brown. Like he swept. I think he submitted every single person in his bracket, and he was just a brown belt. You have a purple belt, Kolabate. He came up and at blue belt, he was killing black belts for like 2 years. Purple belt, killing black belts for 2 years. So, it's really like the level of competition is very high. And getting back to Coach Faddis, you know, he could have been a black belt, a year or two ago. And some people have goals that they want. They're like, you know what? I'm a competitor. I believe my jujitsu is the best in the world, and I want to go test it against them. So he chose not to get promoted and say I want it on the podium. It didn't work out for him, but uh, but he was one of the ones promoted yesterday to brown belt. So it was really cool to see him move up.
So what did that conversation? You actually talked to him about his promotion? Like you talked to him about like brown and black, and he's like, you know what, I really want to compete a little bit more at purple. Like how'd that convo look like?
Yeah, so last year he went to Worlds and I believe Pans, and last year he would have been promoted, but he wanted to win a world title. He wanted to do it um, at the purple belt level, and I think he even gave it a shot at the blue belt level. So, but yeah, I talked to him. I said, look, you've been training X amount of time. You've put your work in. All the way around. Your jujitsu is, it's at that level. And he specifically wanted to. He said, no, I want it. I want to win. And so somebody like him and many other people say, let me put my promotion and the belt level on the side because I believe I'm one of the best in the world. And so he trained, and that was the goal. So we both decided it was the best thing for him. It's not something a coach can say, hey, I'm not going to promote you because I want you to win worlds.
Mm.
You know, we might give them they might ask us, how do you think I would do? What do you think about me in worlds? And sometimes they might not like the answer. And sometimes, as a coach, we say, yeah, you're at the level. Let's give it a shot.
So now what about those just starting out at they don't care about they don't care about the um they don't care about the belts. A lot of our wrestlers come in with that mentality. They're like, dude, I'm just here to grab it because there's there is no rank in wrestling. Like it's just
Right.
like it's the best wrestler in the room, right? So
Right.
and you something that you mentioned last night is you said, "Hey, listen, guys, we're going to um, we're going to mm, kind of rank or observe or judge each person on their ability." And we had a couple. We had an amputee get some stripes. You had mentioned young man who was a war veteran and a war hero, came back. He took a bullet to the head over in I don't know if it was Afghanistan or Iraq, but
Yeah.
um, it was he's definitely got some like a little limp to it, and uh, and so you're like we're going to be judging these people differently than your college athlete, your D1 wrestlers, and that's kind of a hard pill for people to swallow, like to understand, because all they in the corporate world, in the academic world, in all these other things, it's your kind of results speak first. And if I beat this person, if I choke this person, then I'm better than them and I'm quote higher rank. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, I think that's natural you're always kind of, if a white belt's comparing himself to a blue and then he taps that blue. I remember. I mean, I've heard people say that. Well, I'm a blue belt now because I tapped the blue belt.
Yeah. Yeah. Take an ex football player or ex wrestler. They have trained in so many different physical disciplines like sprinting, powerlifting, cross training. I mean, their bodies are very, very strong. Their bodies are very, very durable. And then take somebody who is, played sports in high school, went on to college and started their career, and didn't do any sports in college, for example, or they just kind of got married or something. So if you take two people that, one has spent many, many more years in a physical discipline and continuously after high school, say, really dedicated himself to his fitness. If you take those two people, the one who is much more in physical shape, has much more physical endurance, bigger, stronger, even at the same weight, it wouldn't be fair to take those two people and say, okay, let's judge them on the same exact technique, same exact benchmark, because one of them has years of physical ability above another. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you're in great shape, it's going to take you years longer, but you're going to expect a little bit more out of somebody who comes into shape and is going to be able to handle a physical grind of jujitsu. So it's only natural. And yeah, the amputee and Josh, one has one leg. Josh was shot in the head, and he's kind of paralyzed on one side of his body. Uh, it's only fair to judge those two very differently on smaller improvements in jiu-jitsu than somebody who's like they're healthy, they're strong, they played sports, and they're like, well, you know I've been here just as long.
Hmm.
We'd be doing them an injustice and not hold them to a higher standard.
They yeah, it, I think that's an important distinction, and it's honestly one of the hardest things as a coach.
Yeah.
It's honestly one of the hardest things as a coach to make that distinction. And also what happened last night was, we had a couple promotions. We were looking at them. I was like, yeah, this one, oh man, it's a little late. Like you could have got promoted a few months ago, 3 or 4 5 months ago. And it's something that we take really seriously, maintaining the integrity of jiu-jitsu. I mean, people are already naive. People already believe it doesn't work. They already believe it doesn't. Like it's not like you see on the highlight reels or the streets, or it's not like that. But I mean, we see people every single day come in who we see just how clueless they are as to any real combat skill of any sort. So jujitsu works really well there, but we want to maintain that integrity. We want to maintain that the purest art, right? We don't, there was a time, I guess, when Taekwondo was a literal actual martial art where like they actually sparred and stuff. That hasn't, I mean, certainly hasn't been anything I've seen in my lifetime, so
Yeah.
but we just don't want it to go by that wayside, right? So it's a very delicate thing. It's a really delicate thing. It's an ecosystem, and I've had people. Dude, I've had people quit because we didn't give them their blue belt. They then went to another school, got it literally month one. So whatever that says about the school where they went in their standards, right? So like our standards, we'd rather promote a little bit late than early.
Yeah,
It's
and you know something that that's I think it's important for people thinking about jujitsu to understand is you can develop the physical skill, but if you got a bad attitude, that's only going to hold you back. And
mm,
I just want to clarify that because a bad attitude means like you're not open to learning more and questioning more about what you're studying and what you're learning and what you're applying. A bad attitude means you're kind of like your head, your mind is not open to exploring more in jujitsu. You feel a little bit like entitled, and that attitude, sometimes that attitude comes in like temper tantrums, believe it
mm,
or not.
yeah, yeah,
Like I mean, we've seen it over the years, like throughout the year, even before promotions, when students are like they feel a little bit entitled, or they have an attitude, they feel like you don't like me, or you're mean to me, or you like people better than me or whatever. That attitude really holds people back because it takes away from what you're actually trying to accomplish in jiu-jitsu, which is learning. There's a in every business and personal development course, every single one, they will tell you, if the more you work on yourself, the more successful you're going to become. Like, you have to start there. And the attitude that I'm talking about is they don't want to have self-reflection and say, what am I doing to contribute to where I'm at? What am I in control of? And how can I make adjustments in my training and my preparation and my in the gym that I'm at? How can I make adjustments that I'm in control of
mm,
versus point the finger at everybody else and say it's because you and you.
yeah. So I have no idea where I heard what I'm about to say, but it was I think there was a Michael Jordan documentary, and did Michael? Someone's gonna have to fact check me. Did Michael Jordan not make the high school basketball team at one point?
He was cut. That's a fact.
Yeah, so
He was cut.
he was cut, right? And like they were going on, and mom's attitude wasn't, well, I'm gonna go talk to the coach. Mom's attitude was like, guess you better work harder, son. I guess you better get better. For whatever reason. And you can say, because like I think you can always find a lower standard,
Yeah.
right? Why wouldn't you find a higher standard? And a higher standard doesn't mean, so because here's the other side of the coin. A higher standard doesn't mean that you leave your blue belts blue for 7 years just to be sure, right? Like if you haven't if you haven't trained your blue belt to be purple belt material, and it takes you 7 years to do so, and they're showing up, you're failing as a coach. Like, you're just like, plain and simple. Like, clearly your ability to communicate technique to where they can apply it, like you're failing as a coach. And so we see the other side, the far other side of this is we see sandbagging, right? Like the same blue belt on the podium, tournament after tournament. He's like got more experience than some of these purples or browns do. Like that's like a different side of that coin. Is so, and because you hear people complain about that, like that, like sandbaggers in tournaments, or someone with like 7 years of wrestling experience going in the white belt division, against like suburban dad who's been doing it for 3 months. Like that's not even
Yeah.
like a responsible match at that point. So there's there are two points to it. There's the, we don't want to water it down, we want to protect the integrity, but you also, and sometimes what I think we had Coach Alvarez on last week is he's like, hey, dude, you're right there on the edge. This belt, like, I know you may not feel like you're ready, but I'm telling you, you're ready, and ready or not, here it comes. Like we're gonna push you through to that next one if you're kind of right on that edge. And sometimes that's what it takes for for people to do so.
Yeah,
Um,
and the uh, like the belt system in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you can get a black belt, you know, like anywhere from 8 to 15 years. And I don't know what we both have a little bit different philosophy and opinions on it, but if you are a blue belt and you win worlds after a month or two after getting your blue belt, example, then you're promoted to purple belt. It's very often that you don't have the technique of a purple belt, but you got it because of beating all of the blue belts, the best blue belts in the world. So having one belt level could be for many different reasons. It could be because of technical ability. It could be because of knowledge, or it could be because you know how to compete and you've been doing it a long time. So we're going to recognize you for that by promoting you to the belt level. And having a purple belt or brown belt often doesn't mean you have all of the knowledge that you should at that level. It just means, and the category of competition, you've proved that you can compete and beat the best with sometimes one or two, three moves, not necessarily, so much jujitsu. So, that system of a ranking system is not reflective of how much knowledge you have. Sometimes it takes time. So there's many different ways that you can look at somebody who's at a certain level.
I want to change topics here, slightly change topics, but it's still loosely connected. I was in a Facebook group. It actually wasn't a martial arts group. It was a separate one, right? And they were talking about, as a business group, and they were talking about like gyms and it just largely about the how most gyms are. This guy went on to say how most gyms are, they're just not profitable. He talked about all the way from big box down to anytime fitnesses to niche gyms, and he's like, yeah, because that's what it was. I remember now. I guess Mayweather has like a GoFundMe or something. Like you can invest into his Mayweather box, which the fact that Floyd Mayweather is even asking for money blows my mind. Well, it doesn't, right? Like so like he's very well known for making a lot of money and pissing a lot of money away. But like like he was like looking for like investors into this club, and the guy was like, "Hey, what do you guys think?" And then they went on to say gyms are a loser. And so I piped on. I was like, "Well, they can be, and I know we know plenty of people struggling. But I think it goes down to like you have to have a little bit of business sense and certainly someone who's been there to kind of help show you the way. And I said, we have Metro Jiu Jitsu, and we've had a lot of response. I think back because of the community from it. And this guy, he's like, well, Jiu Jitsu is, it's the exception right now. It's just the equivalent of CrossFit was in the 2000s. It'll die out. And I was like, what? Well, maybe. I mean, it is growing. I mean, it's still. I wouldn't. You like CrossFit had the CrossFit Games on like ESPN. Like Jiu-Jitsu's not on ESPN. Like in terms of mainstream sport. Like, correct me. Is there cornhole on ESPN? Like, is cornhole? I'm pretty sure I've seen that on television.
You want to ask Jeremy that question? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Like so cornhole is more popular than jujitsu. Think about that for a second. So he's like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna burn out." I'm like that. Like it was just kind of like such a blanket statement. I kind of chuckled at. I was like, "Okay, so I'll humor it. Let's humor it." I know, I know schools that like the big craze, the big push of karate and the karate and taekwondo back in the day. We'll call it the '80s, like during the Karate Kid movies when those came out. That was a huge surge, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And a lot of those gyms did really well, and then they're still doing. I know those that are still doing really well. And it's not even like the same. It's not even the same art form, And so the question that I have for you is, do you think that jujitsu, the rise of jujitsu that we're seeing, is that just a fad? Is it just something that's popular now because we have people like Keanu or Thor's kids do jujitsu? Who's Chris Hemsworth's kids? There's Zuckerberg now trains. Like obviously Rogan has been a huge component of it for years at this point, right? So, is it just something that is this just a fad that's going to play out, kind of like Zumba or roller skating or CrossFit, or do you think that it's something that's gonna stick around? Where do you see that going?
It's a good question. We are at the beginning of the boom of jujitsu. It's growing so absolutely so fast. Um, and having trained, boxing, kickboxing, aikido, um, for many many years, I got to see the rise and the involvement of the people around you and around those different arts. And martial arts as a whole, like it's good for people. We know that, we know the benefits of all martial arts. um, and martial arts as a whole is a very challenging thing. It's like it's it's like a long drawn out Navy SEAL buds program. It's broken up. The training is, you don't go through a training for a short amount of time. It's drawn out for years and years and years and years. And you have to obviously problem solve. It learns you to work together as a team. And so I heard something. I don't know if you've seen this, but they asked a Navy SEAL instructor, "What is the common denominator amongst the people who succeed in buds training to become a Navy SEAL?" And they took IQ, they took physical ability, and they took all these tests. And they said it wasn't the person on paper who were overachiever. It was the person who was willing to sacrifice for himself to help the person next to him.
Hmm.
And I thought that was very interesting. So and jujitsu is very similar to that. Getting back to your question, it's very early to tell. I do know that all around, you know, it's very early to tell. I mean, the standard is so high right now. It's at a different time. When in 1980, I highly doubt you could have said, "Hey, in 20 or 30 years, it's going to be so watered down that they're going to compare this to like exercise versus fighting."
Hmm.
When it first hit the scene. So it's really hard and too early to say, because there still are full contact, taekwondo, and like any sport, it's based on rules.
I'm. Do you know the supermodel who just got her purple belt?
Yes.
Was it Brady's ex-wife? Was it his ex-wife actually?
Yes.
What's her? So she got it in like 4 years.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll be right back, coach.
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk on this for a second. She got her purple belt in 4 years, and so like this was a big deal in the jiu-jitsu scene. All the guys are like, that's way too early, especially she's sleeping with the instructor, which I believe she absolutely is. I think she's dating him, but but they were so upset about to see it. Like 4 years is way too soon. There's no way she could do it. Number one, I mean, if she's training, six, seven times a week, 4 years to purple is not. It's not ultra quick. It's not ultra quick. If you're training that much, but she went on. They were like, it's just you're gonna dilute or water it down. I think the circumstances surrounding that of her getting it, it kind of seemed like some foul play there. There was certainly some nepotism, favoritism, what have you. It comes down to mat time. Like we kind of talked about this. Like if you're training 7 hours a week, we'll call it, or 8 hours a week, and someone else is training too, it's gonna feel like they got promoted 4 times quicker than you, and it's easy to be like, oh, you can chalk that up to favoritism, but at the end of the day, dude, the mat time doesn't lie.
You,
The mat
you,
time doesn't lie, and I have no idea how much she's training. I have no idea what her jujitsu like. I don't even know her name. Like,
yeah.
so I don't know. I'm gonna look her up actually while you comment. I gotta see if I can pull it up here.
Well, look, BJ Penn at the time, I believe he got his black belt in like 4 years. BJ Penn got his black belt. Yes, he got his black belt in a very short amount of time. At the time that he was on the scene competing and then went into MMA, 4 years was like holy cow. And I remember, I was taking a private with a black belt when I first started, and I believe I was a white or blue belt, and I've took privates. I've took more privates than I can remember. Like I still take them till today just to kind of expand on my knowledge. But I said to my instructor at the time, I said, um, like I mentioned something about how can I, what does it take to get a black belt, in this amount of, like BJ Penn. And he said, what you guys don't know is BJ Penn was taking multiple private lessons per day, multiple private lessons per day. And I don't know if you're fact checking. I don't know how long, like how many world titles that he won, but he was one of him, Rafael Lovato Jr. They were one of the first Americans that actually won big name tournaments. So they went out there and they tested their ability on the world stage. So so getting back to Giselle, the Brazilian supermodel, I don't necessarily I don't know how much mat time she has. I don't know. I do know she's like in her 40s. I don't know specifically how much training and how many times a day or whatnot, but somebody like her has the resources to have multiple
Yeah.
multiple training sessions per day, and like she is getting better at a like astronomical level compared to somebody who trains once a day, part of a group class, doesn't have instruction that's going to help them literally refine every micro movement during a group class. So, and the instructor who promoted her to blue belt probably knows he's under the eye of the entire world. So before he
Yeah.
does that, he needs to gut check himself and make sure he can, with a good conscience, say I'm promoting her based on her ability, not based on uh, her money, because
Yeah.
she has
So
more money than she needs.
yeah, I'm looking at supermodel Giselle Bunchen gets BJJ purple belt after just 2 years. joins BJ. It's so crazy to compare her to BJ Penn. That's wild. Legends BJ Penn, Kyle Taro for fastest progress in jiu-jitsu history. Top 10. Like there's okay. Her kids train as well. I'm a new purple belt. Thanks, Valente brothers. Um, oh, it's the Valente brothers, dude. Have you seen their academy? I think this is one in Miami. Like they have like a rooftop like workout area, and like their academy, it's pretty dope. It can also be given much faster. I believe tools in the toolbox. Yeah, I don't know. Wow, they literally just posted like a headline. I have no. Yeah, I believe the more tools we have in our better. I feel stronger, more confident, empowered since I started practicing self-defense. It's an important skill for all, but especially for women. Yeah, and I think Johnny. So we're gonna go ahead and hide that. Yeah, Johnny Buck did a commentary on this, and he is actually kind of a hot take a little bit. He's like, first off, it's up to you what the standard is in your school. So this doesn't really affect. It doesn't put any pressure on us to hand out belts, quicker or whatever. He's like, our standard in my school is not going to change. But this is better because I'm going to guess a lot of people paying attention, a lot of football people know who this chick is. So it's just going to be more like, or their football wives, are going to know like, hey, Giselle, she trains jujitsu now too, and more people are kind of associating with it. to help grow the sport. I mean, that's the mission, right? That's the goal
Yeah.
to it. Like, and that's, I think, the more awareness we bring to that, the better. And so I don't know, again, if someone sees this article and it brings them in our gym, it doesn't matter if her jiu-jitsu is watered down, because we know our jiu-jitsu isn't, right? So like it doesn't really I don't know, feel like you're barking up the wrong tree a little bit if you're going to attack something like that. And you're
Yeah.
always going to have, it's also, you're going to have different like degrees of jiu-jitsu, even amongst
Yeah.
black belts. Like
Yeah.
you can't compare someone who's a professional, quite literally, like you don't win, you don't eat. Like that's going to have a different, that jujitsu is going to feel different than what we're going to say, like your career black belts, right? People, school
Yeah.
owners who, like, you have all the responsibilities of doing that. Like that's, I mean, Alvarez was talking about what it takes to be a world champ. I mean, it takes doing everything right: nutrition, training, lifting, running, sleeping, supplementing, all of it, all studying
Yeah.
tape, all of it. You
Yeah.
know,
And at Worlds this weekend, just getting back to growing the sport, bringing more awareness. The whole reason we're doing these podcasts is to bring more awareness to jujitsu. And this weekend at Worlds, there are so many competitors from Michigan. I mean, like so many more.
that's
And
cool.
any success that anybody has at Worlds or just being there brings more awareness.
Yeah,
I like
Kamir.
Jason. I saw Jason at
Yeah.
Worlds. Yeah, he did really well. I think he was one win away from to being a world champion. Our
Mm,
old affiliate that we were Detroit, Danny Edgemy. I watched some of his matches, and some other guys from some of the other schools from Michigan. I was cheering for them,
mm,
and because I know that their success, from you look at it on a bigger scale, we want Michigan to grow jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
If any of these Michigan coaches, Commonwealth Jiu-Jitsu had they double gold. Two
Yeah,
of their instructors
Danny took
won.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I watched both those matches. Like,
Yeah.
somebody could say, well, they're your competition because they're very close to you. They're very close to us, and of where our location is opening, or here, and we compete against them at the tournament. But you know, jujitsu is bigger than that, because
Yeah. Yeah.
some of our students, they might train over there a couple times in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get to that bigger level, for me personally, I'm a fan of any school in Michigan that is out there competing at the on the world stage, and that's good for everybody. So there's many competitors. I think another competitor from Michigan took second in the adult bracket, which is in one of the weight divisions and the
Which
hardest one,
which rank?
black belt. So there's a lot of
It's a tough bracket, dog. Adult
yeah, man. So
like
there's a
it's
lot. So jujitsu growing in Michigan is it's important that everybody succeeds locally to uh, to to support and help the growth of jujitsu. And when I see it at the world stage, I was very proud of Michigan and their showing. And I know there's a lot of people that I missed, but for all the Michigan competitors, very, very proud that the Midwest showed up, and showed how tough we are, how good the jiu-jitsu is here.
yeah, and so I think it's, you know I think school owners locally in Michigan. I mean, you kind of have to make up your mind about where your stance is in here, right? So
Yeah,
either you want the sport to grow, which
yeah,
means by default, like inevitably, not maybe, not sort of, not inevitably, more schools will open, and more people are going to open schools where there's a greater populace, right? Like you're not going to
yeah,
necessarily go to like Gladwin, and open up a school, right? Because it's just a numbers game, right? So like
yeah,
I know right now every school's got like a nice kind of little like 5-6 mile cut. No, I mean we don't, but we got like I think 3 or 4 schools around us now. But like they like this elbow room of like, oh, I got a 10-mile radius, like this is my hood. those days are going away, dog. Like, and like get used to like a school opening up 2 miles from you, and you're gonna have to have differentiating factors, right? And that could be
Yeah,
culture, it could be coaches, it could be, what are you doing to bring awareness? It could be podcasts like this. It could be how your I mean, a really large one that I complimented our team on last night was the team. I think the team alone. The team alone is going to do it. If you put all your eggs into like one competitor, I was talking to
yeah,
Jabril about this. If you put all your eggs into one competitor and that competitor leaves and changes schools, your entire brand just left with them, right? So, but when you put it into like the team and everyone, you mentioned that Navy SEAL mentality of of helping the person next to you, but denying yourself a little bit, like being a little bit selfless with your training and helping someone next to you. We talked about last night at promotions, everyone should be being coached by someone and coaching someone. It's
yeah,
not I'm going to come in and, what can you guys give me today? I mean, like, yeah, I mean, we work real hard and put a lot of attention to detail to make sure our members are learning what they should be learning and growing at the rate they're growing. But it also, like, when you've got a couple hundred of them, a couple hundred adults, like, you're gonna have to rely on on the team to help with that. And so I think school owners have a choice to make, right? Do you want the sport to grow, which means more popularity, which means more awareness, which means it's more people who pay attention and listen to what you say? Like like the fact I'm thinking about this, and it's maybe the second time I brought this up, where that we have local groups and people say, "Hey, I'm looking for martial arts," and I in just my head, I'm like, "Oh well, everyone knows jujitsu is the best martial art. It's just going to be a tagging contest of the jiu-jitsu schools." No, like I am astounded at how many people still recommend PKSA as a martial art. Like but that's a rollover from the 80s. Like that's a rollover from the 80s of how strong that culture is. Imagine how good it would be for jiu-jitsu if school owners would be like, "Hey, listen, like jiu-jitsu is where it's at." Like that's I think that's the mindset of it. But then don't get angry, don't get ugly, don't start throwing mud when schools inevitably open where the numbers are. Like in Dearborn, in Detroit, in Westland, in Troy, and like all of them. Like they're gonna go, like, you open up because it made sense with the demographics. They're gonna do something similar, right? Like, so, and don't be threatened by it, because they're gonna go where they feel the most welcome, and they jive best with the coaches and the team, and they're getting the best instruction, and it's in line with their goals. It's as simple as that.
yeah. I mean, more options. The McDonald's Burger King effect is definitely, I think, the smartest way to look at it. The more schools, more people training, more people talking about their training. You could, you could, like, what's his name? Jordan, that was training with us for a couple of
Queen,
years.
yeah.
Yeah. So he trained with us for a couple of years, and then I believe he moved
He's in
like
Grand
out of
Rapids now. Yeah.
yeah, he moved way out of Grand Rapids, and he found a place, a different affiliation, obviously different school. He learned jujitsu. He got a good taste for it. He definitely was a promoter of jujitsu,
Mm.
and that happens. Sometimes people move, and sometimes they, you know, uh, people just move on, and it's good to have a taste of what one school looks like. So wherever Jordan is at right now,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to have a reference point of what kept him at jiu-jitsu for so long,
Yeah.
and he's going to do a comparison at his new school. He's going to say, you
Sure.
know what, I love that Metro did A, B, and C. I love how they operated, but I like this better, differently. So you have
Mm-hmm.
you have comparisons, and the more schools that are out there, the more people get to, like, get a taste of how people run their academy.
I think it's so. I'm gonna try and pull it up while I talk here. And I what personally I just like that the standard is changing. I like that, dude. I just think about when we started, I mean, we were happy just to have four walls and mats, dude. Like that was it. And
Yeah.
then like when you and I started training, and then now seeing some of these schools that open up, dude, they're gorgeous. Like they're like phenomenal. I went and stopped. I was in Abu's wedding up in it was in Milford, and so I stopped by Crown MMA. It was Newski's new school up in Milford. I didn't think it through. He was at Worlds, but I met his Muay Thai coach and everything. And his academy's like great looking. Like he's got nice
Yeah.
white wall, and I'm just like, man, if they it, if they just knew, if they knew what the schools looked like back in the day. I like that the standards changing. I like that that the bar is raising, and I think it's going to be good. I mean, even just people wearing shirts out in public, just wearing jujitsu shirts. Um, I think that's going to be good for everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's more awareness to jujitsu, the better, and as well as I do is you don't open up a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. You don't say I want to open up just for the money because it's
Well, yeah,
it's
yeah.
not yeah, it's not a very profitable industry to go in. It's
For the effort and hours and investment, a lot like it's you could do a lot of other stuff for
Yeah,
more money.
yeah. So you have to have like love for what you do, and I think that when we started 15, 20 years ago, it was a lot different. People just it was so new. People just wanted to
Mm,
train, and as more people started to train, and the industry jujitsu grew, they wanted to create a better, bigger, cleaner platform
yeah.
for members to train in. And you walked in that gym in Milford, and it's nice, it's big, it's updated. You're
Hmm.
seeing more of that because there is more of a demand. But obviously, nicer, bigger, cleaner gym comes with more expenses.
Yeah.
So
Well, absolutely. I
yeah,
talking about raising awareness, and then I know you got to get going. I just want to add this craziest thing happened last night. I want to talk about Mr. Hugo. I want to give him a shout out real quick. So Hugo messages us on Instagram, and I thought for sure, I thought like without question, I thought for sure my man was like gonna pitch us to like make our geese, right? And he's like, "Hey, what's up, you guys?" I'm like, okay, all right, like this guy's gonna, hey, today, sir, how you doing? I make high quality custom. I get like we get dozens of those every week, and he is in Chile, and it's not Chile, it's Chile in South America, and
oh,
he
okay.
says, I found one of your gis at the secondhand clothing store. It's an honor that this kimono is in Chile in an isolated area. So he's not just in a main city in Chile. He is in like the, the boondocks in Chile. And even more seeing the great work with your team. I respect. So he's literally wearing like a metro key. And again, I want to pull it up here. Like where's his stuff? I'll show his training partner in a sec, but I'm like, how does that happen? How are you? I have so many questions. How it even got to a thrift store in Chile? And here's come check out where he's training. I'm gonna add this one right now. Let's see if I can do this. This is his training hood right now. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. This is his training where he's training right now. Can you see this?
Let me see.
The public can see it. This is where he's
Okay.
training though. Like it's like I see brick walls and puzzle mats. He's got like 5 puzzle mats with huge gaps in between. And he's like thrilled. I was looking at his Instagram. He's like thrilled to death to be able to train here, right? And like that's the love of jujitsu. And I just have so many questions. I need to message him and be like, hey, I don't understand. Like where was the thrift store? How did it even get there? Like I have so many questions, of how it got there. But it's cool to see that like this is talk about awareness. things like Instagram and social media help you get found. So big shout out to Mr. Hugo for glad he's starting. He just earned his blue belt, and he's on the jiu-jitsu journey.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
But all right, coach. So we end of the year we have. So we just we also did AGF tournament. We took how'd those results go? First place kids, second adult, second overall. Is that what we got?
Yeah, we did very, very well at the tournament. Very, very well. We had a lot of new competitors step up for the first time. You know, what really stood out to me is the people that we had competing.
People, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We
like
had tons of first
Nicole.
times.
Nicole competed. She's a mom. She has 3 or 4 kids. She works, and I asked her yesterday. She only played a couple sports in high school, but you wouldn't think somebody like Nicole would ever compete.
Yeah.
And I was, and after she did, like I told her yesterday, there was a beam of light shining all over you. You look so happy, and it looked like you had so much fun. And I was so so proud of her for getting out there and competing. Eric competed. He's in his 40s.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nurse's anesthetist, like just underneath the anesthesiologist. He competed, and who else? So Ron competed. He's a
Mm-hmm.
dad. He owns a heating and cooling company.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was so impressed that just average people
Yeah.
working so hard. Like these are the people who deserve the promotions because they work so hard. I seen it in their eyes. I seen it in their body, and that gave them the confidence to get out there and compete.
Well, what they have to, what they have to overcome just to get in the gym. I mean, like just to get in the gym to train
Yeah,
is you have to organize your life to do so, and you have to make some
totally.
sacrifices, and you're gonna have to do that, and then it where else. I mean, like that makes you an interesting person too. I mean, you go back to work the next on Monday, and you're like, hey, so how was your weekend? It was good. Oh, we went to like go get eggnog or whatever, and watch the movies or Hunger Games. Like, okay, cool. What'd you do? Oh, I competed in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament. Like what? Like that makes you just by default you're a more interesting person, and
Yeah,
you're just a more interesting person to hear about. And like it's not like oh I played a game of pickup basketball. Like it was like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like anyone's gonna be it's gonna take them aback a little bit. And I it's personally what I really like about jiu-jitsu is you can do that and go to work on Monday. Like you could feasibly do a jiu-jitsu tournament every weekend. And
yeah,
without like really destroying your body, without really you cannot do a cage fight every weekend. Like you just can't.
true.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think
but
that's
you
like
need
a
jujitsu to do a cage fight.
yeah. Oh well, yeah, yeah. Well, to do a cage fight successfully, yes, yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. All right, Coach. Well, we're gonna go ahead and end. We did. I didn't want to keep cutting and ended it. We did run into some tech issues again today, so I'm gonna be playing with that we were on for the a pretty large portion of the last of this stream. We were on YouTube only, so I'm gonna download it. I'll get it uploaded to Facebook for them to share, and then I'm gonna play around with the Instagram here, because I want to get that working, and so I'll be testing it a little bit. But if you guys are watching the replay of this, please like, subscribe, comment, add all those things. And then, if you're looking for a jiu-jitsu academy, we have people. I see the messages come through all the time on our TikTok, Instagram. We're out of Detroit, Detroit Metro. Second location coming in the Canton Westland area. But even if you're not in Michigan, you're like, hey, can you help me find a school? Like, we'll be able to find you a reputable school. Again, the goal is to grow the sport. So, appreciate you guys. As always, we'll see you on the mats.